listing on this next week with Ruth Green on Team Ren.
Oh, right on. Very good.
Yeah. Little buddy time there, hooking up. We'll see who else jumps on here today. See what's going down. I think probably I piqued a few people's interest with my little post there about, I actually ran into that. I've known for a long time. I know who in town lists wholesale deals for sale. And happy to share that with you guys today. But I happened to run into that one and it reminded me, we're talking about how to list a wholesale property on the MLS, or the fact is the matter is it's allowed by the MLS, but is it really worth your time? Is it, something you want to do? Also, is your brokerage firm going to let you do that? So after we get a couple people on here today, we'll wait a minute here, then I'll tell you some things about that.
Well, I'll tell you, Julie, the crazy thing is Luke and I were literally talking about this yesterday, and we were looking at our brokerage's policies and procedures, and we were starting to think about possible contingency plans. And then all of a sudden I saw your post last night, went, Luke, she's in our heads.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually, I'll update you, but I have sent a message in to our squad to talk about it a bit. Because what we're talking about is EXP doesn't allow you to wholesale. So as a company policy, you can't wholesale. That doesn't say that you can't independently list a wholesale or purchase, one of your buyers purchase a wholesale deal, right? You're not the wholesaler, but that's, so we can talk about today, like if you're the wholesaler, how that might look for you, if you're an agent and a wholesaler, or if you just want to list them. But while people are still jumping on here, and I'm not your mama, I ain't your broker, I'm not the MLS, I'm not an attorney. So this group is what this group is about is we share all our strategies and ideas and try to help each other out. I like to steal the term collective genius, because that's what it is. You bring your questions, ideas, and thoughts here and we hash it out together. Okay. And that's what we're going to do on that topic today. But more importantly, we have our man, Keith Pitsch, with us right here to the right of me on the screen. Keith Pitsch, what's up? And maybe let's, before we're waiting to see who else jumps on, let's get a quick update on how shitty rates have gotten or how that's affecting anybody's.
Well, we don't call it shitty. We call it normalizing. Rates normalized.
Well, from an investor, right? If you're in the middle of a renovation of an apartment building and you want to refinance or, some sort of.
We call that bad timing.
That's bad timing.
Yeah, that's just bad timing. I think this is why we go back to the basic fundamentals, that you make sure you're properly building in your contingencies, your plan Bs, and understanding your numbers forward and backward. Because the market does move. We've moved a considerable amount from the beginning of the year to today. Housing Wire just announced yesterday. So there's a rate quoting tool that the mortgage industry uses called Optimal Blue, right? So we all put our rate sheets in there, and then we can go in there and say, hey, we have this scenario, and give us what the interest rate is for that scenario. And so Optimal Blue,
Optimal Green.
Optimal Blue sells that information to that data to Housing Wire and what have you. So the average offering on a 30-year fix yesterday ticked up above 5%.
Oh,
right?
shit.
So that's owner occupied, right? So it's moved considerably, because when we were in December, we were selling like 2.75 on a 30-year fixed owner occupied. So it's jumped up 2.25 points. So yeah,
Where are you at
here
today?
we go.
Where are you at on that?
Yeah, we're right around 5, depending on your overall credit score. And the lower credit score you have, the worse it is right now. Long story short, from my seat where I sit, and this will sound good for you real estate agents, people are still getting pre-approved left and right. we're still picking up the phone and getting people pre-approved. I've got over 25 pre-approved buyers right now, and we're averaging, our buyer pool right now is averaging submissions
I
of
just don't
somewhere
drive you
between
crazy.
7
We're
and
fine, but
nine offers a week. And in the last 2 weeks, out of 18 offers that our clients have submitted, there's only 2 winners out of that group. Right?
That's a
So
topic for another conversation.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of competition still out there. I'm still getting lots of buyer interest that want to get pre-approved to get into the mix. So I don't think it's slowing down the market yet. The Fed's going to come out the next two rounds and punch up another half point. So hopefully they'll get up to a Volcker status as far as jumping short-term interest rates 2% in 1 year. They're going to try. We'll see how that works.
How
Silver
about,
lining. I'm a
how about
silver lining guy.
multifamily?
Say again.
How about multifamily? How about, what are the rates looking like there?
The tide has rised across all the ocean. I mean, multifamily and single family are swimming in the same sea. So you're seeing similar rate environments. You are seeing different lagging indicators based on portfolio lenders that have money to lend. They're not as volatile and jacking up their rates as much, but you are seeing a similar increase in rate environment. Your small local credit unions and independent private lenders, they're like, oh, hey, I don't need to jack it up 2 points. I'll take some margin here and jack up my interest rates because they're not tied to the market. They're tied to their risk tolerance. So it really depends on which lenders you're dealing with right now. So
Time to really understand the numbers, right?
silver lining, guys. Here's a silver lining. We're seeing all the signs heading into a recession by the end of this year, early 23, and that is great for real estate. It's great for real estate, specifically single family and residential real estate. 5 of the last 6, and we all know which one is that one recessionary period that we actually had a decline in housing values. But 5 of the last 6 recessions, we've actually had increased value. And when we go into a recessionary period, rates come back down. So buckle up, make sure your numbers are right here for the next 9 months. And come 23, it'll be a very, I think, promising time to refinance out and take advantage of the equity gains that we are still forecasting in double digits through the remaining of 22. So, yeah.
Well, let me ask you one other piece of news that might have come across my desk that I need to ask you about. Is there a change or some sort of good news in regards to desk appraisals or something to do with appraisals or, yeah, I thought I saw some Housing Wire news that the appraisals are, I don't know if that's good news or bad news, probably bad news if you flipped a house. But if you are a buyer, if you're working with buyers, that appraisals, maybe, I don't know, could work either way. Something about appraisals, I don't know. Check into it if there's been some update on,
Well, I know Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are both pushing 2 things. They're pushing automated valuation models.
Yeah.
They've taken the last 2 decades worth of data that they've been pooling and creating more and more dynamic algorithms to allow us to get property inspection waivers. So we actually don't even need an appraisal period. So long as you have a certain amount of down payment and it's owner occupied
Right.
with a second home.
Yeah.
So those are getting more sophisticated and we are getting more and more of those. The cool thing, the refinance boom really helped in that, in getting a lot of recent data because there's a lot of appraisals done. The second thing is Freddie Mac specifically has rolled out a hybrid appraisal. This is a pretty cool thing. What they have done is they put together some technology where they have just a person, right? That signs up for the program to go out and take pictures and take measurements of the subject property. And then they send the pictures and the measurements to an appraiser. And that appraiser is sitting remote somewhere in maybe like Cancun or something, and looking at the pictures, looking at the measurements, and then pulling comps. So that appraiser who's doing what's called a 70H appraisal is a hybrid appraisal. They never set foot in the property. So it's really cool because those turn times for a 70H appraisal are like 4 days. and they're about 2/3 the cost of a full-on appraisal. So
let me ask you, for
those
those
that I know
who,
of.
if you're a buyer yourself, let's say
Yeah.
out there, maybe you're looking for your personal residence, or if you're a buyer's agent or whatever, would it be a recommended practice to, if the buyer was putting, sorry, we're getting sidetracked here, guys. If the buyer was putting, what does it have to be, 10 or 20% down to get the appraisal waiver? Is it 10 or 20%?
5% on owner occupied, 10% on a second home, and I think it's 20% on non-owner occupied.
Oh man, I thought it was more like at least 10% on an owner occupied
I can pull it
to,
up really quick.
because what I'm saying is, for those of you representing buyers and you're having to use these 22 ADs, or you're wondering about appraisal risk for the buyers, every single time you go, you should be working with the lender. You should say, here's the address. Here's what we're thinking about offering. Run the appraisal approval through the system and see if it pops out to tell me what the appraisal is.
I do
And
that
then
every
you
time.
know how to write your offer without risk,
Yeah.
right?
Well, we can't do it without a bona fide purchase and sale agreement. We cannot. We will get in really big trouble with Fannie Mae Freddie
Gotcha.
Mac if we throw in an address and you're not under contract with it. So I would say that. But when
So
I
then,
get it,
scratch that, I said,
so here's what I do in that situation. If we have a client who's putting down 5% and they had another 5%, so client comes to you, Julie, and says, hey, I want to buy an $800,000 house. I got 10% down. You said, great, we're going to structure your deal this way. We're going to put 5% down and then 5% on the 22 AD.
yeah,
What I'll do is I'll run, once we get under contract, I'll run it with the full 10% down.
yeah,
Right. And if we can get the PIW to pop, we'll just go that way. Right.
gotcha.
We won't even have to order the appraisal. Say, hey, client, you signed up for 5% down, or you waived your finance contingency altogether, whatever. We can go this way. How does that sound? And
Yeah.
it works a lot of the time.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, well, I dangled a carrot today, which we need to talk about, but before we jump into the wholesaling thing, does anybody have anything they're working on they need help with? Anybody have any questions about anything? So I don't do all the talking. What's
I have
up?
a question.
Ew.
So I do construction to permanent lending now, and my underwriters allow us to roll permits into the whole nugget, right?
Mhm.
The land that I'm selling in Issaquah, the guy said his lender wouldn't allow him to roll permits into it, and he's supposed to close on Monday. And I'm like, who on God's green earth are you lending with?
Yeah,
Is that a typical underwriting guideline, that construction to perm lenders aren't allowing permits to be rolled into the whole loan to value?
I don't know the answer myself on that. Does anybody else know the answer?
I was hoping Augie would be here with your carrot, and he made mention of something. So no.
Yeah, well, we can certainly get that answer. You could probably get that answer easily, if you just post it somewhere, but I personally
I'll
do not
post it
know the
out.
answer. I do not know that. Anybody else have any questions before I cover the little topic and we see what happens here today?
I have a question for you guys.
What's up, Darren?
How's it going? So we were recently down in Arizona, helping my son with his house hack BRR thing. And we were doing the remodeling, and we do it on the cheap. We do the offer up and Facebook and discount houses and stuff. And we were having trouble finding vanities, right? There's just a lot of people down there trying to get you into their store to sell vanities on offer up. They just list them over and over and over again. So, but we ran into this guy who pointed us to an auction site called Nellis Auctions.com. And essentially they have like all kinds of returns and online returns, Amazon, Lowe's, all this stuff. And it's really cool site, but it's a local pickup only type thing. So they have this giant warehouse, and they put auctions online every single day for the return auctions, and you bid on them. They all start at $1 and there's no reserve. It's really cool. And sometimes you can get some really great deals. And I was just wondering if there's anybody's heard of anything like that up here.
What's it called?
It's called Nellis Auctions.
Nellis Auctions.
It's
Never
really
heard of
cool. Well, they're in Phoenix and in Las Vegas is where their two biggest operations are. But when you win the auction, you go to their warehouse. You can pay online or when you pick it up. You go to the warehouse, they bring it out on a dolly, put it in the back of your truck, and you drive off. Right? It's really cool. So,
Nice.
but I've been looking for something like that up here, and it's like, well, the closest thing I can find is like the big box outlet, right? And you have to walk into the store and hope they have something interesting.
Maybe
that's a good business opportunity for someone.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Karen. You could be the local Nellis auction dude. There you go.
I would love that if I could afford to buy, 50 freight boxes of,
Sounds
off of the
interesting.
shipping boxes and stuff like that.
Sounds interesting. Anybody
Yeah,
else?
I don't know of anything like that. I will say when I was setting up my Airbnb, there was a lot of Facebook Marketplace going on for sure.
I'm sure you guys are aware of, like, locally here, you can go get refurbished appliances that come with a warranty, I believe, from the Snohomish County recycling place out there in Snohomish, kind of by the airport or whatever. It's a great place to pick up used, but gently used or refurbished appliances for flips or rentals, whatever.
Yep.
All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a question. I am getting close to buying my first purpose investment property, as opposed to, the condo that we had and then turned into an investment property. And it's going to be out of state and probably close to $500,000, which means, I want to keep my down payment as little as possible so that I could do another property, afterwards, possibly within the next year. So what are my options for reducing the down payment amount? How low can I go?
That's you, Keith.
Yeah, I'm unmuting. It's a single family residence, Steve?
Yes, it would be single family.
Yeah, so technically your lowest on a single family non-owner occupied is 85% or 85% loan to value, so 15% down payment. Your trade-off there is then you're adding on to the mortgage insurance, right? 80% loan to value is a good place to be, so 20% down payment. The one thing that you could do that in this environment you have to think through, I don't know what your cap rate is, I don't know what your rate of return is, but you could put down, I've been talking to some clients about putting down 25% down, because once you get on a non-owner occupied to the 75% loan to value benchmark, your rates get a lot better. They're very punitive between 75.01% and 80%. You can totally do it, but it's tough. So then what you could do is you could work with KeyBank or BECU and turn around, pull that extra 5% back out. KeyBank was going to 90% on a home equity line of credit. I don't know if they are now any longer. I haven't checked in with them lately. The one thing that I'm cautioning everybody with HELOCs right now, the interest rates on those are going to go up by at least 1 point between now and the end of the year, at least. Right? So you have to make sure that you're forecasting that properly into your debt service coverage ratios and making sure that your net operating income is coming out to where you want it. Because cash is important for the next purchase. Also, your debt to income ratio is important on the next purchase too. So if you're upside down because your negative rent is such, because remember, if you're going traditional lending, you're only going to get to use 75% of the rent schedule of that new property that you've obtained because you haven't put it on your Schedule E yet. You're only going to get to use 75% of that rent to offset that mortgage payment. So that's going to be calculated, whatever deficiencies left is going to be calculated into your debt to income ratio. A lot of people think, oh, hey, I'm in such a great position that 75% is still positive cash flow. So it's actually bringing money to my debt to income ratio. You cannot offset, all you can do is offset the mortgage payment. You can't actually garner new income unless you've actually had 2 years worth of history being a landlord. Then if you've had 2 years worth of being history of a landlord and the 75% is giving you positive cash flow, that's when you can bring it into your income. But past that, it's offset at best. So there's some things to keep in mind going forward. There's once you get to the point where your debt to income ratio is tapped out in a traditional sense, there's debt service coverage ratio loans that you can then go apply yourself to. Similar interest rates. Actually, some of the debt service coverage ratio loans that we have are better off than Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac right now, pricing wise, because they've really jumped up. So.
I mean, the moral of the story here, guys, is especially if you're an active investor or you want to buy more than one property a year and force it, you need to sit down with your lender because it's individual for everybody. There is no, like, you can't listen to something and then be like, oh, okay, that applies to me. It's individual. There's so many factors involved for everybody. So you need to be sitting down with your favorite lender, every 6 months.
And that's, Kim Davies, who comes here all the time and is part of.
I just had coffee with her yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she was on our podcast, which will be airing this month, and that's what we talked about. Kim and I and Jason sat down and said, what's your 5-year goal? Right. Yeah. I want to help you achieve this one. And this is how I really quickly understand my clients from not my clients. My clients, I ask that question and say, hey, what's your 5-year goal? And they go, oh, Keith, this is what I want to do. I want to buy this. I want to buy that. I want to buy this. My not clients are like, well, what's your rates and fees on this transaction? I'm like, I'm not interested in that. Right. Great. I'm not. Loan Depot, we're not the cheapest. We're not the most expensive. Just like a lot of services out there, we're in the market. But I want to make sure that what we do today doesn't screw you up in another 2 years when you're trying to get that 5th or 6th or 7th property. So it's funny. I've had a lot of
You're not paying for you're not paying just to get a loan. You're paying to get a teammate that's going to be your advisor through your investing. And that's worth more. Right on.
And Kim decided to go buy like commercial multifamily. Like, Kim, go buy some more fourplexes.
I know she's trying.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
The question is for Keith. If I have an investment property and I'm looking to do a refi cash out, and is there a way to do that without having to use the perspective that you were talking about, not having to have I'm sorry, I drew a blank right now. Geez, I just drew a blank.
Rent schedule or debt to income?
No, an appraisal.
An appraisal?
Yes.
Hold on, I was just looking up those guidelines.
Using the method that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah. Property inspection waivers. I just have them. I've got too many tabs open right now, you guys. You should see this. It's kind of funny. Hold on 1 second.
Right on. Hopefully you guys all have tank tops on underneath your sweatshirts today, because I think it's going to be 70 degrees here. Right? You want to see mine? No, just kidding.
They said it was going to be 70, but now it's 65, at least on my weather app.
I hear you. Doesn't look like 70 out there.
I moved to the backyard because the sun's way too hot.
Steve, I just got licensed in Tennessee.
All right, you and I will be talking.
Okay.
We're going to let Keith look that up. We'll kick off our other conversation here since we're halfway through this thing here, and we'll follow up with that before we bag off. All right, Keith? Sound good, guys?
Yeah. Cash out non-owner occupied needs an appraisal.
Cash out non-owner. Okay. You got that, Lucretia?
Yes, thank you.
If it was rate and term investment property, you could possibly get a PIW. But if it's cash out investment property, you have to get an appraisal.
Okay. Are you licensed in California too?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. How do I find you?
I got lots of licenses. I'll throw my email in there right now. I got lots of licenses this year, Julie. My goal was to get licensed in 15 states. I am at 13 now.
Jeez.
So.
Excellent.
I need states that have inventory, girl.
Lordy. Well, let's talk about this for a second, guys. So we're going to talk about a little side topic here, which is how to list wholesale deals on the MLS. If you guys saw my post, which some of you are here because you saw it, you saw that I shared with you a listing that where they've listed a wholesale deal on the MLS. It's, it's allowed by the MLS by using certain language. Whether or not it's allowed by your broker is another thing you'd need to run by. But I think people are like, excited, like, oh, that's all I have to do is, put that language in there that says it's an equitable contract, and I can, pull that up. Joe, can you, are you able to let me screen share?
With great power comes great responsibility, Julie. Whoosh.
Oh, let me try it here. Share screen. Here we go. Share. You guys can see this. Can you guys see my screen?
It's booting up.
Ooh, there it is.
Ta-da!
This is actually a different one than what I put on my post there that got your attention. This is a different wholesale deal that was listed, looks like last year in Greenwood. But again, you can see what we're looking for here is the broker only comments. This listing is for buyer's equitable interest in executed PSA and or a signed contract. Listing agents does not represent the property owner. No sign, no make appointment by calling the phone to show PTS. Buyer to verify all info to their own satisfaction. There is a looks like that's a flat fee commission they're offering on this one. Oh, the commission, $24,000. That sounds like a lot. That's all about 3%. So, the question is, are you listing your own? Are you a broker that wholesales and so you're listing your own, or some of you might want to be, just not a wholesaler, but a broker who lists for wholesalers. And like I said, that's doable. As you can clearly see, I can send you 50 of these. I mean, I know where all of them are. Okay. That I don't know why I haven't brought this up before, but I'll tell you something interesting about it is that very few of them actually sell. You can see that this has a canceled listing, lots of expireds, lots of canceleds. Now, does that mean that then they get off market and get sold somehow through this agent or wholesaler? Maybe so. And you can research. I'll give you guys some little cheater info. Let me tell you who this is if you want to research it. See, Real Property Associates, this Lindsay Kim. This gal has listed tons of these. And if you want to go explore what those look like and look at the history of the transactions to see which ones sold and which ones didn't, you can go do that till your heart's desire, I guess is what I'm saying. Okay. And you can go educate yourself on that. But I want to get to the nuts and bolts of it. So we know that it's allowed because here we see them. I gave you the MLS number on my post the other day of the other one. I can't remember. If somebody can tell me off the top of their head what number that was, I can pull it up. Does anybody have that post handy? That my Facebook post on Seattle Investors Club, and tell me that MLS number.
190-7572.
190-7572. Here's the other one. This is a different person. This is the one I posted. Seller is a licensed Washington real estate agent who is purchasing this on a contract. Buyer of this property shall purchase and as an and/or assigns agreement. Owner is selling his equitable interest. keywords obviously is equitable interest, right? But has anybody ever listened to our kick-ass, probably best podcast we've ever done with Jeff Watson on legal wholesaling? Okay. Yeah, raise your hand if you've listened to that. If you have not listened to that and you want to understand wholesalers, or you want to wholesale, or you want to be a broker that lists wholesale deals, first of all, you need to check with your broker to see if they're going to let you do that. And that's what I've done recently, just because I like to goof around and see what they say. And then I can come tell you guys, not that I necessarily will or won't list wholesale deals, but I'd probably be very good at that because I know what's up. But you can't just, in my opinion, you need to listen to our podcast number 63 about legal wholesaling, and then you're going to understand what I'm going to tell you next, which is you always want to protect your butt, right? When you're listing something as an agent, you don't want any scrutiny on you. You don't want any dings on your license. You don't want your designated broker chasing you around. We're talking about this to real estate agents because whether you're a wholesaler that has a license or you're just an agent, it all has to do with listing stuff for sale. So there is some specific things like I want to tell you guys, if I was going to list this for sale, which is what I'm running by EXP. I'm saying, hey, EXP, because that's where my license is at. I'm not wholesaling this deal, but obviously the MLS allows it. And here's a checklist for a listing agent that I believe needs to be covered. If I'm going to list one of these wholesale deals, to make sure that it's all legal, that the wholesaler is legal and everything else. Okay. So it's not just, you could be a cowboy or a cowgirl and you can go try and list one of these, throw this language on there, like in the broker only comments. As long as you understand how to communicate to buyer's agents and you understand what you're doing, go do it. I'm not your mama. You're on your own, right? I'm going to tell you my thoughts on it. Legal wholesale. I don't ever want to get in trouble. I don't want to mess up my license. I want to sleep at night. So first of all, it comes down to legal wholesaling. Okay. So let's say a wholesaler came to me, or you're a wholesaler. Okay. The very first thing is that you've got to have language in that contract that gives you the permission to list on the MLS. Okay. You need to have that written into the contract. So if I'm an agent or whatever, I'd say, let me look at your agreement. And I'd be looking to see that type of language specifically is in that agreement. Okay. Because you can't do it without it. Second of all, I would also make sure that wholesale agreement says in there and discloses that I am the wholesaler is saying that I'm the buyer and I intend to make, a profit or a significant or a material profit. You're acknowledging in the contract, that underlying contract needs to have those disclosures in it. Does that make perfect sense to you? If you go list it on the MLS or you work with a wholesaler to list it on the MLS and that language is not there, then you are breaking the law. You are illegally, they're illegally wholesaling. It's illegal, right? We don't want it. And that's what we play by the rules here. So that's the first thing. Get a copy of the contract, look it over, check the language, right? Or if you work with wholesalers, say, hey, if you want to start doing this, make sure that you have this language in there. And not only that, the reality of the fact is everyone might think, why would a seller agree to that? Why don't they just list it for sale themselves then? The whole thing with people who sign and sell their properties to wholesalers, they just don't want the hassle. They just don't want to be bothered. They just want the number they want. They're satisfied with the number they want. And nobody needs to overthink why they do these things. They do it out of a hassle-free nature, right? And if you present it in the right way and you disclose things in the right way, that's all you need to do. You don't need to worry about why they would do it, okay? Because people will just agree. That's how wholesaling even happens in the first place, right? And just to add on a little like, hey, look, if I feel that, I can't get the number, or, I might do this, do you care? No, I don't care. Okay, well, it's in the contract that it says that, I can list this on the MLS or, whatever. And they'll be like, fine, make sure that that's initialed. If I were me, I'd even want to see that, that's like an extra initial, right? Or maybe even have some extra document from the seller that says, yep, I know. Okay, fine. Go ahead. Right. The next thing that's important for you guys to understand, if you listen to the podcast with Jeff Watson, all I'm doing is going down my own list of stuff that we talked about with Jeff. Okay. One thing that's important in wholesaling is that you're illegally wholesaling technically if there are contingencies left in the contract at the time you assign it. If you assign a contract that is assigned with an inspection contingency in place, you have invalidated your equitable interest. To the best of my knowledge, listen to the podcast with attorney Jeff Watson, the national legal authority on legal wholesaling. Okay. So if you listed a wholesale deal on the MLS, when the buyer goes to purchase the property, they need to have either pre-inspected or that needs to go away. No contingencies, no outs in place, or it gets in this state called, what's it called? Incoherent or something, there's some fancy word for it. And it can invalidate the equitable interest. And obviously the entire premise of your ability to list a wholesale contract for sale is that you're listing your equitable interest. So you don't want to invalidate that. You know what I mean? Okay. Another thing is that earnest money is important, right? And so you want to make sure, if it were me, I would want to make sure that the earnest money deposit of at least $1,000, not $10 or anything like that, was already made, that wholesaler has made that earnest money deposit, and that the new buyer will just be reimbursing that to them through the assignment. Okay. Through the assignment contract, the new buyer can reimburse the wholesaler, because you only want to work with wholesalers that are on the up and up, right? No cowboys, cowgirls on that. Another important thing, if I was doing a checklist, which you'll never see by just looking at this on the MLS and these wholesale deals, just keeping, this is me because I like to be super clean. So I'm just sharing with you, you do whatever you want, but I would make sure that the wholesaler, whoever is that wholesaler that I'm listing their property for, if that's you, do you guys realize that you're actually illegally wholesaling if all you ever do is wholesale? If you've never closed on a property, okay, and you have no money, and you are not lined up even with a hard money lender that you're lined up ready to go to purchase properties, and all you do is wholesale 100% of the time, that's illegal wholesaling, okay? And because I want to stay super clean, I would not list a property for a wholesaler that's never purchased a property, right? Because all this shit rolls downhill, not only to you, but to your brokerage firm. Later, doesn't matter if it gets closed. What if something happens later, right? And it comes back to haunt you later. That can happen, right? Just because things are gone doesn't mean it's over. So
Do you remember if Jeff had like a time specific in that, like never, like FIFO in American Tail, or like never in the last 3 years? Do you remember if he had?
I probably would say that, close 1 out of 10 or something like that. It's probably more like that, right?
He was definitely beating the drum about capacity. If you have no capacity to purchase,
yes,
then you're in trouble.
Right. And it gets down to the wholesalers. I mean, we could nitty gritty down to the wholesalers marketing. If a wholesaler is marketing, hey, I want to buy your property for cash, or anybody that's doing marketing that I am going to buy your property for cash, and you have no money, you've not set up with a hard money lender, you've never closed anything, you don't even live in a house yourself, you rent, and you're sending out marketing that says that, that's illegal because that's fraud, okay? Technically, okay? And wholesaling is getting cracked on, and several states now actually requiring wholesalers to have a license. And that probably rolls out, I don't know how long that takes, but so that's like the checklist, right? Let me see what else I put on my checklist. So if you want to list for a wholesaler, or you're a wholesaler that wants to list your property, you need to check with your designated broker. Let me check my little notes here for a second. Okay. And like I said, what I am recommending is that you verify that this wholesaler has actually closed on a property before. Okay. And that they are set up with like a hard money lender, even if they're not using them. You know, they've been pre-approved with a hard money lender. They've closed on something, you know, is this going to come back and get you whatever? Who knows? So it's up to you to decide, like, okay, they closed on something in the last 12 months or 24 months, whatever it is, that's up to you. I'm just sharing my thoughts with you guys, because I don't want to share this. I feel responsible for you guys. I don't want to share with you, hey, look, you can list something as a wholesale deal on the MLS. It's allowed. Look at this awesome language, and then not give you more meat behind it. Okay. So you want to verify, it's up to you. You don't have to, but you want to verify that the wholesalers actually purchased something, not wholesaled 100% of the time, because that's illegal wholesaling. I also, big one here, I want to confirm that the wholesaler has informed the seller of the full market value of their approximate full market value of their home. And that seller has said, that's cool. I signed up with you. Thanks for letting me know. I want to see in writing, an email, anything that was done. I don't want to deal with a wholesaler that is trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes, right? You want to make sure, because what happens if now all of a sudden you sell it for whatever, you help get it sold for whatever, and that seller finds out, right, that it's $400,000 instead of $300,000 or something like that. They might get pissed. So that's, as a broker doing this, or as a wholesaler who is a broker doing this, you want to make sure you've communicated that somehow in writing, that you have that verified, that you have communicated that, and they said, yeah, no problem.
Because they're still getting that email campaign from Zillow or Redfin stating their house just sold for X amount of dollars.
Yeah, I mean, it could be something simple like that. Like, hey, Zillow says your house is worth X. It might be worth that. It might be worth more. Are you aware of that you could be leaving money on the table? Just something even like that. And in writing, they say, yep, I see that. Yeah. Are you, and I'm fine. Let's still move forward. Okay. Again, the wholesalers putting down an earnest money deposit, and the buyer is reimbursing them for that. So, basically, I think what could also work is, let's say the contract says, the wholesaler's contract says the earnest money is due upon the buyer's acceptance of the inspection contingency. Okay. Let's say that's what the underlying contract says. When the contract is assigned, that all goes away. No more inspection contingency out, and the earnest money is due and payable at that time with the assignment. Boom. Right. the earnest money is made. No, there's nothing in the contract that says the earnest money is due later for any reason, okay? Because you're protecting the equitable interest in this. That's what it's doing. Again, listen to the podcast. Again, I mentioned that the underlying contract has to have language that the buyer has the right to list it on the MLS. Again, these are things like nobody's going to do that. Yeah, they are. It happens all the time. Clearly, I can show you 50 of them. Actually, I don't know because I haven't seen any of these people's underlying contract, right? So this could all be bullshit. All these listings on the MLS it could be just a ploy. It could be a way to get the word out further, and then somehow they sell it off market, because many majority of these are getting canceled or expired and then getting sold. Okay. I looked at 50 or 60 of them this morning, and I only saw 2 that actually recorded, or maybe 4. 2 as like a regular sale, a listed sale, a couple as an unlisted sale. All the rest were either canceled and picked up by some other agent, or canceled and probably sold off market and then never reported to the MLS, right? So I'm going to tell you guys how you can go do your own little homework on studying up on this and looking up the history of each one of these wholesale deals that's listed. But that's it. The important thing, meaning also that at the time of the mutual contract, key point, there are no outs. So if you list it for sale, there are no contingencies. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that you can't have a financing contingency? Well, most likely, wholesaler is not going to write a contract that has a financing contingency in it, right? It's going to be cash. So the idea is, hey, can the average buyer, any old buyer, there's such lack of inventory, start buying these wholesale deals? Well, sure, they absolutely can, right? But probably the wholesale fee is not financeable, okay? And B, it probably needs to be a cash sale in order to not have any contingencies in the transaction. I still am investigating whether or not a financing contingency is considered an out that would break the equitable interest. Do you know what I mean? I have to do a little more thought and work on that. Okay. This is how I'm thinking of it. Listen to the podcast. All of it will make sense to you. All the information I'm sharing with you is right in that podcast. Just making a checklist after listening to it. Okay. So that's it in a nutshell on how that would need to go down. Now, let's say you're like, oh my God, this would be great. I have buyers that could, as a wholesaler, you're thinking the average retail buyer can come buy these. Well, hell yes, they can, because they can just use something like Fly Homes or these cash offer platforms to get access to cash, to purchase in cash, or they could use, certain lending or whoever else is out there, right? To purchase the property with cash if we are stuck with not being able to sell with any type of financing because it would break the equitable interest threshold, right? You guys see what I'm saying? Once equitable interest is broken, then you kind of have an illegal assignment, right? Got to keep that intact. How do we keep that intact? Right? We just make sure that, there are no outs in the contract, that the earnest money's been made, things like that. You guys following me? Anybody have any questions as I'm getting through this? Did I confuse you? Who you need to worry about in this transaction is yourself, right? And your designated broker, assuming they're going to allow you to do this. Now, you could make a great case on why they should allow you to do this because the MLS allows it, right? So for those of you that, are with me at EXP, I have I'm in the process of running this by them with a checklist of, how it can get done, and we'll see what they say. Right? Now, the next question is it worth your time? Because you'll go and look at this and see, oh, wow, God, a lot of these are canceling and expiring. And then you got to look at the history tab here. Okay. So let me see if I go back and find the one I was at before. See if I can go back here. Okay, so here's this one that was canceled over in Greenwood. This was listed in May of 2019. I'm on the history tab in the MLS. It canceled, but did it sell? Yes, it did. It sold for $815 in January of 2022. We don't see the history here on the MLS, so it was an off-market sale. So either the wholesaler got it done or the broker somehow got it done if they're different than the wholesaler and didn't report it to the MLS, right? Off-market transactions are allowed. So maybe this is a way to, potentially get the word out about wholesale deals to the retail market and, let it cancel and people will call you. I don't know, right? Or people show interest, you cancel it, you do a deal with them off market. You just need to report it in that case, which is allowed. So I don't know why people aren't reporting it. It's no big deal, right?
Can we just look at the sales history? Donald had been in that house for a while, man. Holy
well,
cow.
That's the nature of a wholesale deal in the first place, right?
That's awesome.
Good for Donald. We don't know. See, we don't know how much Donald, if he was the original buyer, Donald actually got for the property, because there could be a wholesaler in there. You see what I'm saying? I mean, he's still, we don't know how much the wholesaler made. So I'm going to tell you guys, now I could keep this all to myself because it's really good intelligence, but that's not the nature of who I am, right? So remember that, is that I'm always good to you guys. If you want to go find all these deals in the MLS, go look at Real Property Associates, office number 7300. Okay. Those guys do a lot of, in the past, you'll find 50 different wholesale listings and you can research them until you're blue in the face. And that's going to require you to look at all these canceleds and expireds and see what happened and see if a couple sold, because a couple did. I think if you're in like Lake Hills and Bellevue, you might get it done,
Childhood. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, anything's possible, right? So the key and the point to this conversation is it's doable. Talk to your broker, make sure that they're okay with it. They probably are going to have no stinking clue about what the hell you're talking about. You need to show them some examples. See, the MLS allows it, as long as on this one, let me see. I've seen them where there's flat fees or 2%, 2.5% offered to buyer's agents. So the buyer agent still going to get paid like normal. Okay. Who's paying the buyer agent? The wholesaler has marked up the deal, probably even marked it up higher to list it on the MLS. And so they're paying that out of their assignment fee spread. Okay. So they're keeping enough for them.
I'm sorry, Julie, go on.
No, they have enough spread on there that they're able to pay themselves and offer the commission to the buyer's agent. Okay. How can I tell you that this is doable is because I wholesaled for probably 3 years. Joe and I did. And we had deals where we would close with our wholesale partner, the contractor, and we would just clean them up and put them back on and make 70 or 100 grand. We did several times, right? So if you get a good deal off market, there's the potential there. It might even make sense if you're the wholesaler and you want to attempt to do this before you do it, to go clean up the property for a second, and, make it more retail attractive or something. Now, what if you are the wholesaler and you're not going to close, right? Well, that gets back to, it's back on you, right? So if you're wholesaling and I believe the legal thing about wholesaling is if you're wholesaling and you assign your contract and that buyer doesn't close, I believe you're still liable as the wholesaler. Okay. I believe
That's
you
my
are.
understanding.
Right. So I think some people would be like, I signed it, hands off. Well, your buyer didn't close. I think it comes back to bite you. Okay. Legally. I can double check on that, but I believe that's the scoop.
Julie, with something like that, is it great business practice to make sure you've got a backup plan if that was to happen, have the funds available if you need to
close?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, but the other answer is that you should be, if you're wholesaling, you should wholesale to you. Yes. I mean, this could even fail, right? This could get under contract with somebody and fail, and you're still, on the hook, right? So technically, I guess you could lose your earnest money. Most wholesalers are probably only putting down about $1,000. I used to put down more because that's how I would beat the other wholesalers, because I knew we could close, right? Go ahead.
So Julie, question, which is kind of surprising because I've been flipping through a few of these wholesale listings on the MLS, and in the potential terms, I would have expected most of it to be cash out, but there's cash out and conventional, and I'm looking, the one in Tacoma on 64th is cash out, conventional, FHA, or VA.
I saw that too.
Yeah.
Which seems a little...
What I'm saying, I'm looking at a piece of lint on my screen here. What I'm saying is just because these are on here, I wanted to show you guys that it's doable. The MLS allows it, and the language in the broker only comments that's needed. Guaranteed that the MLS is not policing the rest of it, right? And so, again, I'm telling you what I believe to be the legal way to protect the equitable interest, which is not having contingencies, which I believe might even include a financing contingency. That would be the safest and easiest way to make sure that you're not breaking the equitable interest, right? Because with assigning a contract that has a financing contingency in it. Because look at the reality of today. If it was me and I was listing this, the reality is today I list properties all the time. And guess what the buyers are making offers to me on? They're not putting a financing contingency in there, even if they're getting a loan, right? They're making offers. They might still be getting a loan, but there's no financing contingency. That's the name of the game today.
The sleepless nights.
So, for me to further verify that accepting an offer that has a financing contingency, right? Again, you're assigning a contract that was already written. So you'd literally be, instead, you would probably be canceling the agreement somehow on the wholesale and rewriting it maybe with the financing, right? The other thing is your broker is not likely to accept some wholesaler's 2-page, 3-page, 4-page contract. So that contract, I would think, needs to be written on an MLS form. So it's broker friendly for the brokerage firms involved.
Hey, Mr. Broker, here's my napkin. It looks good.
Here's my 2-page, very heavily buyer friendly, bad for the seller contract. Are you cool with it?
Yes, it does smell like scotch.
Yeah. It's not a big, nothing, guys, nothing has to be a big deal. None of this has to be a big deal as long as you know what to do and play by the rules. You follow? You try and put a square peg in a round hole, as they say, you're going to have trouble, right? But if you follow the rules, and I don't know, again, I would not get in hot water and just do this. I'd make sure that your designated broker is okay with this. You don't want to just slap it on there and get under contract some way and do it. Right? And so I think if you communicate to your brokerage firm, hey, look, I am an expert at this. I am very in tune with the legalities, and let me tell you how I'm going to protect your brokerage firm and myself, which I care more about than doing a listing of a wholesale deal. Okay. But, and you want to present the checklist to them. For those of you that roll with me, I've already done that. I'm ahead of you, so we'll see what happens. And does anybody have any questions? Because this would be an interesting source of business, especially if you're an expert and know how to protect everybody and know how to help the wholesalers protect themselves, right? What I had a wholesaler, we have a wholesaler in Seattle Investors Club, been posting, I've been lazy and I'm not paying enough attention, and I had to go delete. Some of you might have commented or liked on some thread, saw me delete like 15 posts on Seattle Investors Club yesterday, because I do not allow wholesalers to post their deals in Seattle Investors Club unless they post it the right way, legal wholesaling. You come on to Seattle Investors Club and you post a wholesale deal with all the pictures of the house, you give out the address, that no. Is illegal. You're going to get yourself in trouble. You're going to get me in trouble, or you're going to make me have to report everybody who did. So I'm helping you stay out of trouble by deleting your post and then saying, hey, if you want to post your deals on Seattle Investors Club, you have to do it like this, right? Say, I have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,900 square foot split entry home in Farrell Way in the Rolling Hills neighborhood. That's available for, there's a contract available for sale for, $550,000. If you'd like more information, let me know. Right? You don't say the address because you don't own the property. You can't market a property that you don't own. Right? But you own a contract position and you can market your contract position. Okay? Very technical difference, but very legal difference. So when I would do marketing, postcards or whatever, direct mail, as a wholesaler, I would never say, hey, I want to buy your house for cash. Never. Because I don't have to. I say, I want to make you a cash offer. I don't want to buy your house for cash. I want to make you a cash offer. Are you interested in a cash offer for your home? See the distinction? I'm not saying I'm going to buy it. I'm not fraudulently telling you as a wholesaler, I'm going to buy your house for cash, but yet I have no money. In my case, I have money, but lots and lots of wholesalers don't. Okay. That's fraud. That's illegal. That's illegal marketing. So they illegally market for it on the beginning.
Let me ask this question then. Why do you see in your Facebook feed all these wholesalers saying, if you have no money, if you have no credit, if you're like on life support, come wholesale?
Well, because they don't know the rules. Do you know that podcast I did with Jeff Watson has got to go down in the history of gold fame? Nobody has done it. I stalked him for 2 years, went to an event in Las Vegas to get in his face personally, made best friends with him. He's even come to Seattle and come to my house. You were there. Were you there?
I was there.
Yeah. So I have made, because I was freaked out myself, okay, to wholesale illegally because I care about my license and I want to go snowboarding every weekend and on vacation and live with my kids and not have to worry about anything at night. Okay. So I made it my business to become an expert on the subject matter. Right. So I highly think it's very possible a lot of these wholesale deals that are listed on the MLS are not following the rules or being as anal to protect your real ability to do this. So what I'm trying to say is I think this is how you need to do it. And if we can get designated brokers to say, cool, even if they were cowboys and they said, do whatever you want, that doesn't keep you out of hot water, right? You or the wholesaler. So I think the best way to deal with people is to educate them, whether it's buyers I'm working with, sellers I'm working with, wholesalers, other investors, all you guys, right? It's good for me. You guys trust that I'm always going to be as honest and tell you everything I know. It's good for my business, right? I'm an expert. If it was me and I was a wholesaler, wouldn't you want somebody like me who's an expert that knows how to keep them out of hot water doing this for you? Right? If I said, yeah, well, I'm going to tell you how to do it legally versus just some broker down the street who wants to, is only thinking about themselves. I am thinking about myself, but I'm also thinking about you, the wholesaler, right? That's it. Anybody have any questions? Does it, you guys find the information valuable? Does it make sense to you what I'm saying?
It does.
Can we talk about Idaho now? How does this apply in Idaho?
Idaho. Honestly, so what you would need to do in Idaho is you would need to confirm that equitable interest is an actual thing in Idaho that gives you rights. In Washington, it does, right? That's why all these listing and broker comments say equitable interest. So you need to go find out in your state by joining a real estate investment club there or whatever. They probably hopefully know these things on, what gives somebody the right to assign their contract or sell their contract position. Is it called equitable interest? Or, you could probably use the Googler and, it'll talk about like, what is the alternative language to equitable interest that you might need to look for.
Yeah.
Okay. Or call an attorney, right? That does investor stuff. Okay. So anybody have any more questions? I'm curious. Do you guys think this is overkill, what I'm saying? Or are you like, no, I hear you?
No, I hear you.
Right.
It seems, I guess, counterintuitive that as a wholesaler, one, as an agent, I would need to have the relationships with the wholesaler. So as soon as they have their contract that they have interest in, we can get it listed. But a lot of, I guess, from my understanding, the wholesale contract tends to be, we can close in 10 days or 15 days or something like that, which is why it's kind of blowing my mind that regular financing is listed on some of these.
Well, one thing we could do is look and see how long these are listed on the market, right? I think that it all goes back to the disclosure. If you're telling somebody, hey, I'm going to list this on the MLS as part of your wholesale contract, right? Then you could work in any time that you want, right? You could technically have your closing be in 30 days, because no, it's not all, it could be a tenant, could be, anything, I'd have to, that's something to go back and study these, right? How many had tenants? How many were vacant? Anything goes. That's all I'm saying. Like, I don't want everybody to get hung up on, oh, you have to offer 10 days. No, you don't. You don't have to offer 10 days in your, to close in 10 days on your, what the wholesalers say is they say, hey, seller, you get to pick the closing date. That's what they say. They don't say, I'll close in 10 days. They say, you get to choose the closing date. Right. And so maybe there's wholesalers that are saying, look, if I sell it for more than I've got it under contract with, then, I'll give you an extra $5,000. If you give me 30 days, I might be able to, give you an extra $10,000. Right.
Okay.
When you say that most of these may have not gone through because they ended up canceling them and doing the deal off of the MLS?
Yeah, you can go look at the history of all these. My screen is bouncing around on me here.
So they're looking, they put it on to look for buyers, but then cancel it and then do the deal away from the MLS.
Absolutely sure some of that happens. I'm absolutely sure that they have, hey, I have nothing to lose. Let me throw it on there, see what happens, right? There's all kinds of reasons that you can go study on your own here on the history of the transactions. Go to the history, look and see when it canceled. Go see if it canceled or if
because it seems like the brokerages too, I think one of the biggest things they're probably worried about with people who want to wholesale is being cut out of the deal.
Here's another one.
So if they do it off the MLS anyway, they're still possibly getting cut out of the deal, the brokerage.
Yeah, they might. Yeah, it's name of the game, right? It's true. They might lose the deal. They might be able to turn around and just list the property normally for that seller. They might, then maybe pay the wholesaler a little something. You know what I mean? Who knows? Anything goes, right? Because everything's negotiable. Here's another one, right? That was in Ballard, blah, 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 equitable interest. Listing agent does not represent property owner. Listing is for buyer's equitable interest and the actuated blah, 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 same stuff. Well, it's got canceled. This was on the market for 8 days in March of 2021. And then what happened? Let's see. We're going to look down in the sale history. Well, look, what do you know? It sold off market, not reported as a sold or not listed. And it sold in April of 2021.
Shocker.
Right? So what happened? Did this agent did the wholesaler do the deal without the agent and pay them a little something on the referral? Did who knows what happened? Right? That's why you got to decide if it's worth your time or not. I think if I'm deciding whether this is something that if anybody's would be good at pursuing this, I definitely would be good at this, right? But I'm trying to decide whether it's actually just gimmicky and worth my time or not, right? So I think that there has to be certain parameters available, right? For example, there has to be enough room in the deal to pay you and the wholesaler and the buyer agent. Okay. Well, how does that even happen? That seems like robbery and illegal right there if the spread's that big. Okay. But that's the whole point of taking a wholesale deal and listing it on the MLS. The reason you're doing that, the wholesaler's doing that, is because they think it could get bid up, right? They think that the margin would be that much bigger. And if they can get that number, they can't afford to pay everybody, right? Maybe they are giving the seller a little more in that case, right? And that's the reason they do it. So there has to be enough room for them to profit, you to profit, and the buyer's agent. This one you can see right here, commission $14,950. That's like, better than 2% for the buyer's agent. You guys see what I'm saying? Right? So anything goes. I don't think we should worry about all that right now. I think we should understand the metrics of how it could work first, get your designated broker to agree that, yeah, go ahead. Right. And you don't, if it depends on who that is for you, if you need to explain, like, here's my checklist of what I'll do, or if they're just going to say, if you say, here's 10 listings that got listed on the MLS as a wholesale deal. So it's allowable, are you cool if I do this? And then you don't have to go into the checklist that I'm giving you, and then you can decide for yourself. I would highly recommend that you use my checklist of ideas to protect yourself, right? But some brokerage firms, you might need to say, hey, look, here's a checklist of how I'm going to protect myself and protect you and make sure everything's on the up and up, right?
Hey, Julie, when you say protect, is it really boiled down to E&O insurance? Because I imagine, like someone brought up, the brokerage probably doesn't want to get cut out of the transaction financially. And if it was just that, then they would figure out a way to allow that to happen. Is it because of liability? Is that why some brokerages are hesitant?
Well, most brokerages have no clue about wholesaling. I could go on a circuit and teach them all. They don't know. The designated broker, none of them know anything.
So they're just scared of it.
Yeah, because they don't know what it is. And on the outset, it feels illegal and slimy, right? So they don't want to be responsible for something they have no idea what it is, right? So that makes sense, right? But to me, what is most important is you have to assume things are going to go wrong, sour later after the fact, whatever. Seller gets mad, something, right? Well, they got mad because they didn't know that the wholesaler was going to do that. Okay. They made a stinking amount of money. They got mad for whatever reason, right? Legally, my understanding is in order to even do a wholesale deal, you have to maintain your equitable interest through the assignment, right? So if we're talking about selling this as an assignment, our job as the broker is to make sure that it stays a legal assignment. A legal assignment means that the equitable interest has to stay in place, right? Do you want to be involved in an illegal transaction? No.
Mm-hmm.
Will it ever come up to bite you? I don't know. I just don't roll like that. There are rules. I learn what they are and I implement them. That's
well, you mentioned something earlier about, if you've got a document that the seller signs that says, hey, if you took this to market with my recommendations, this is what you could make. But what I'm starting to understand is a lot of time with these wholesale deals, it's people that don't want to deal with getting it ready to put on the market, or they need to sell out quickly for various reasons. And I think if there was that document that said, hey, if you did go to market, this is what you could make, I think that would be a good protection for you in the future.
When I'm wholesaling before as an agent, I gave them a, net sheet, right? Here's what it looks like if you list it. Here's what it looks like if you want to, if I can buy it or wholesale, whatever, go under contract off market, right?
Yeah.
But I was not trying to make a $40,000 spread. Okay. I'm making a $20,000 spread, but it just so happens then once we closed on that deal, we can go on the market. I knew I could sell it for a lot more, or we flipped it or whatever, right? If you're a wholesaler so that might not work in this case, the way that I was wholesaling before, because I need my spread to be larger in order to get everybody paid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, but that's not my deal. Would people agree? People agree. How do you think these wholesalers, I don't know if they're illegally doing or whatever, but that's why I'm going to check the box. If this was done legally and disclosed properly, right? So can you train a wholesaler to say, hey, look, dude or chick, there's an opportunity here to list it on the market and maybe blow it up, right? If you follow these guidelines, it needs to have it in your contract, use an MLS contract, right? Put your earnest money down. You need to understand that, we need to make sure that when the buyer buys it, there's no contingencies left, right? And I want you to be this type of person, because I'm not just working with anybody. You need to have closed on a deal before, and you need to actually have funds that you could actually close on it if you needed to. Guilt by association, right? So you have to vet the wholesaler, in my opinion, or it's not worth it.
Yeah.
So now, are there people that can take this information and say, who gives a crap? I'm just going to use this language. Thanks for pointing it out to me, and I'm going to go do it. Absolutely. And are they going to get deals done? They might. It's not worth it to me to roll like that. That's, and I'm not advising anybody to do that. I think you're stupid if, go be a wholesaler yourself. I mean, there you go. Wholesaling is a full-time gig, you might run across one here or there. You might be a flipper that instead of flipping one, and getting it done, you're like, this deal's a little too much. Or I don't want to do this one or whatever. And you might get it under contract anyways and do this, right? That's the good people to work with. Somebody who's, there's all the time where you hear investors say, oh, I decided to just wholesale this one instead. And cherry pick the best, and assign the rest. Cherry pick the best, assign the rest. I'm gonna get a shirt. I'm gonna be like Thatch and Tarl and all those guys. I'm gonna say cherry pick the best, assign the rest. I'm gonna get my shirt.
All the good money's in the merch, Julie. All the good money's in the merch.
Right? All right, guys. That's all I got. So
thank you.
Hopefully you guys found some value in the conversation today. But it came up and crossed my path, and I thought, I should probably talk about it. So there we go.
Hey, Keith, can I ask you a quick question that may help others? As far as home appreciation projections, like I've seen it nationally, do Freddie and Fannie or another source do it more regionally, projection wise?
Matthew Gardner is who you should follow for regional stuff.
I do follow him, so now I'll actually look at his stuff.
Yep, look at his stuff. Matthew's got a very good pulse on what's going on.
Man, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Core Logic breaks down some more regionally specific data, and then there's Case Schiller.
We might actually want to have Matthew back on the podcast. Let me think about that, Joe. He's been on with us before. All right.
But yeah, that's what you can take a look at. The local realtor association's good. That they tend not to forecast. They tend just to give you historic numbers, though.
Backwards, yeah. It's just I wanted to put in perspective the national projection of, I think it's like, what is it, 6.2 this year?
Case Schiller just increased theirs up to 9.9.
For what?
Nationally. They were in the
where
low
else
sevens.
You can look? You can look on Redfin and their data.
Yes.
Deep dive in their data section of Redfin.
Yep.
And Zillow.
Thank you.
All right, I'm out. Joe, how was the snow? Was it awesome?
It was awesome for like 3 runs, and then it got so heavy that if you put your tip down the hill, you'd cart roll. Just
really?
Because it was a lot of snow. It was like over a foot. maybe 16 inches
Wow.
Whoa. Up at
Holy
Stevens?
smokes.
at Crystal on Tuesday.
Crystal. Nice.
Today would be a great day to be out there, right? Sunny.
Nice day.
Yeah.
If you've got a bikini to wear.
Yeah. I think
Oh,
all
I
the,
just have mine by chance. Woo!
Nobody
There we
wants
go.
that.
I think all the pond skim or the skimming across, ski across the lake stuff is about to happen here in the next week or two at all those ski areas. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So-
Keith is probably doing that.
Yeah, he
Oh
is.
yeah, totally. Got to get up to. Well, yeah, Schweitzer closes this weekend.
I think
Oh, no,
White
next
Pass
weekend.
and
Next weekend.
I think we got another week or maybe even two at some stuff around here. But all right, guys, I'm back to work. See you later. Ciao.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.